Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 585. I had the black pieces. My opponent kicked off with e4. I play c5. He goes knight f3. And I went knight c6 here. This is not necessarily a bad move, but it's not the move I usually play. Usually I go with d6, or sometimes I go with the e6 setups if I'm going for a con Sicilian. And those are the moves I play. Knight c6. You can get into a classical Sicilian, but also it's used to introduce the Kalashnikov and Sveshnikov Sicilians. So anyway, white goes for this open Sicilian, which is all normal moves here. And now I play d6, which is a rare move in this position. If I want to get to my classical Sicilian, I can still do that with the move knight to f6, and he defends the pawn with his knight out, and then I play d6, and that'll get me to a normal classical Sicilian position. When I play d6, I'm pretty much out of the opening book here, and he plays bishop b5, which is not an unusual choice, not a bad choice. He could also have played c4 and gone for the Moroxi bind here, or just develop with knight c3, which appears to be a top choice, but that would be allow a transposition back into a classical Sicilian. Anyway, bishop b5, interesting move. I unpin, and so yeah, we're just in sort of rare territory. Even though it looks like kind of a normal Sicilian, we've just gotten to a slightly unusual position. But it appears nothing has gone horribly wrong. White still has that usual kind of slight opening advantage. So I finally get my knight f6 move in, and now this knight b3 retreat is probably a mistake. A lot of times players will take here, which I would take back with the pawn. Gives me a pawn closer to the center, but this pawn structure turns out to be somewhat awkward in some cases, so that's not a bad move. But maybe the best move is just to keep developing with knight c3. Anyway, this retreat with knight b3 is kind of uncalled for here, and also it hangs the pawn. That was the other point. I was forgetting that he needs to defend this pawn after knight f6. I'm attacking the pawn. He needs to defend it. So certainly knight c3 here would be the way to play it. So, but I didn't take the pawn. I didn't even notice this during the game. I played g6. So we're out of the opening book, and we're back into that range of about even. He goes knight c3 now, and I go for the fianchetto setup. I have a position sort of like a Sicilian dragon where white is castled kingside instead of going for the Yugoslav attack. And I'm pretty comfortable in these positions, so I'm okay with this. He goes rook e1, I castle, and bishop to d3, moving this bishop a second time. And at this point, black is starting to get some kind of advantage here because of white's slightly inconsistent play, retreating his pieces and moving this bishop around. Doesn't give the best impression. Although, again, nothing really horrible has gone wrong just yet. It's still a playable position, is what I mean to say. Let's see. It's my turn here. I continue with knight to e5, and I've got the c file here, and I can support a knight on the c4 square, which is often a good square for the knight. And he drops the bishop back again. He doesn't want it being traded off, but that is the third time he's moved that one piece. So there's something a little bit strange about white's play here. I went a6, and then this is the position that I was referring to when I said there was a missed opportunity. On this move, white plays king to h1, and after king to h1, there's an interesting tactic that I have. So if you want to pause the video here and see if you can figure out what's the tactic? What would you play as black after white goes king to h1? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The answer is, well, I'll put this on the board. He played king to h1, and then rook takes c3 is a real strong exchange sacrifice right here. And the point is that after he takes back, getting rid of that knight, first of all, undefends the e-pawn once again, so I get one pawn for the exchange. But after taking there, I'm also forking these two unprotected pawns. So what that king h1 move did was it left the f2 pawn unprotected and guarantees that I get actually two pawns for the exchange, not just one. And so this is really an excellent position for black. Even getting one pawn for the exchange is often good in the early middle game because the extra valuable piece, the more valuable piece that white has is, in theory, is this rook. But the rook is just sitting here in the corner not doing a whole lot, whereas my minor pieces are active by comparison. So in the early middle game, before the rooks have had a chance to become active, it's often a good idea to sack the exchange for just a single pawn. And for 2 pawns, it's probably a winning edge at this point. Let's see, best play would be bishop to e3, defending that. And I grab over here on c3, hitting his queen, and I can get the bishop pair too as a further enhancement. So anyway, that would be the strongest move after king h1. I didn't play that. In fact, I was thinking I should make this my New Year's resolution, is to play more exchange sacks, because they're often good, and I seem to be missing this idea, which is strange because it's one of the ideas of putting a rook on the c file is to sacrifice it for the knight on c3 in a lot of these Sicilian positions. So anyway, I'll try and make a point in the future of trying to spot those. Anyway, I played b5 here. He went to a3 to keep my pawn from advancing, giving me, once again, the chance to play that exchange sack. But I played queen b6, and now he goes bishop e3, and the chance is gone. So we're back in the range where I'm a little bit better, but cancel that. I went to c7, but not maybe as I don't have as strong a position as I could have had. Let's see. He goes f4 to chase my knight around and jump my knight into c4, which is probably where it wanted to go anyway. And then he trades it off. I'm going to win one bishop or the other, or force him to play a retreating move. So it's reasonable to take that off. But now I've got the bishop pair and the c file in a pretty comfortable position. But this e5 move, yeah, it's a good move here. The engine is recognizing that black is doing pretty well. So let's back up. Did I have a better reply than queen takes? B takes. Yeah, taking with a pawn. I didn't think about this move too much because you don't usually want to block the c file, but it does gain a tempo on the knight. B takes c4, knight d2, and then bishop to c6. Okay, and then I can target the e pawn here. Okay, so that would be a better way to play than what I did. Queen takes c4. He pushes on with e5, and now my real mistake is this next move where I retreated this knight to e8, and that turns out to be a terrible move. Not because of the retreat, but because of a specific reason. So I should have gone with knight to e4 here, and he would probably trade it off, I guess. I was a little worried about knight e4. You have to make sure, there's a discovered attack on the knight by moving this bishop, so you have to make sure there's no great discoveries with the bishop, but other than that, I guess it's pretty safe there, and it can always come around to to c4 if it doesn't get traded off. So, c5. So knight e4 is the way to go here. Anyway, I went knight e8, and the particular problem of knight e8 is that it makes it impossible to defend the e7 pawn. So it's a very specific tactical reason. Sometimes this knight on e8 is useful, and it can reroute to other squares on the king side or over here on the queen side. So it's not, on the face of it, it's not necessarily a bad move. But in this particular case, the knight is blocking the only piece that could come over and defend the pawn. So I'm just losing a pawn here. I have no way to save it after that knight to e8 move. So yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Anyway, I moved the rook away so he doesn't at least fork my king and and rook when he takes. So he takes with check, and he gets 2 pawns actually. So that was all pretty forced. I get a pawn back by taking here, and then he forces an exchange with bishop to d4 check. It's maybe not the best move. Rook b1 maybe is better, but this still keeps an advantage. So yeah, I have to trade because my bishop was undefended there. And now the way for white to keep that winning advantage is to play rook e4 and round up my bishop that way. The way he plays it, there's actually a trade here, and at the end of the trade, the problem is that his d-pawn is left undefended, and that's that's going to be a real issue for him because that'll destabilize the knight here. So if he had a way to, yeah. So actually, that's the problem with this bishop d4 move as well. It interrupts the defense of the d pawn by the queen. But yeah, he played bishop d4. I traded, but he could still hold on to things with this rook e4 move. Yeah, he's just threatening to win the bishop with the rook. Let's take a look at this because maybe I thought maybe I could get that pawn anyway. I mean, can't I play knight takes pawn here? I mean, I'm going to lose the bishop, but that's a piece that he has already. Oh, I know what's going on here. If I take here, he takes the bishop, and then it's a fork of my queen and knight, so I lose two pieces and not just one. So let's see. So I need to play a move like knight f6, and then he takes. And he stays up. He keeps the pawn defended, and I have to move the queen. So that's the way for white to maintain the advantage. Instead, he took with the queen, which is a forcing move. It comes with check, but it just forces this trade. And after the trade, I can grab the d-pawn. And now the material is even again. I had grabbed the pawn on b2. He won two pawns over here, but I grabbed the pawn on b2, and now I've got the d-pawn back. And so that's his advantage is completely evaporated. And I play, I think, reasonably well the rest of this game. I don't make any further horrible blunders. Let's see. And his position starts to go downhill. Knight d5. Go knight c4. I have, yeah, I guess the advantage I have in this position after all the dust is cleared is he's got weak pawns over here on the queen side. And I can try and attack them. Let's see. He went knight f6. Cancel that. Knight f6. He's jumping in here, hitting my bishop, and I don't want to give up the bishop just yet, so I bring the bishop over here to c8. He plays knight f3, and I go king g7. Yeah, it looks like knight f3 already. It's starting to go downhill. Well, yeah, the engine just thinks black is a little better, but yeah, maybe not the most accurate move. a4, weakening my pawns over here, was a suggestion from the chess engine. Looks pretty good. Anyway, I go king g7 to harass his knight. He can go knight e8 check, so this maybe didn't accomplish a whole lot. But instead he retreated the knight to e4. And now there's this nice lineup of his pieces along this diagonal. Bad drawing job there. So along this diagonal. So I play bishop b7. He goes knight e to g5. And I kick it away. I don't want him taking back with a knight. I want to try and create some more pawn damage. And at this point, I probably have a winning advantage in this endgame. Let's see. He went with back to e4 with his knight. And I put some more pressure on the knight with my rook. Goes all the way to g3. And then I take off this knight. So we have a equal material and identical material. So I have a knight for his knight and rooks for his rook. So there's no imbalances on the piece material, and I just have the better pawn structure here. And so this is a winning endgame. Although, let's see, rook takes e1 is the most accurate move here. I don't always play the most accurate moves, but I keep some advantage. I start going after these weak pawns. He decides to trade and harass my knight. It looks like he doesn't have any good way to defend. He could have tried king g2 just to see what best play might be here. But yeah, I can penetrate with the rook, attacking that pawn and putting pressure on that pawn. So, you know, if the rook comes over and defends the f pawn, I take the a pawn. So he's going to lose material in any case. So anyway, he went rook d1. Now I start to scoop up these weak pawns. He goes king g2 and knight e1 check. King f2 and grabbing another pawn. So now I'm 2 pawns up. Rook d7. He activates his rook. That's a good idea in these endgames, but does give up another pawn. And he goes after my a pawn. Let's see, rook e6, defending and holding on to everything is the best way to play here. But I just started pushing at this point, so I think I do have a win. Yeah, it looks like that's still winning. And then rook b8 getting behind the pawn. He He goes knight e4, trying to bring his knight over to cause some trouble, maybe coordinating against my kingside pawns or defending against this pawn. Can't push right away, so I move the knight out of the way so I can push my pawn forward. He goes knight d2 to stop it, but that doesn't stop it. I can keep pushing. Brings his king over. Go b2. Goes king to d3, hitting the knight. But well, I just played knight b4 check. That's right. That walks into a fork. But even so, let's see. With his best play, knight b1. Yeah, let's take a look at this. See if we can figure out how to win this. He goes knight b1 here, just mechanically stopping me from promoting this pawn. Let's see. I have knight d4 check, king d2. Might come over and scoop up this pawn. Rook to b3. Okay. So that keeps his king away. That's kind of a nice move. It is a bit tricky sometimes to figure out how to promote those pawns. That's a very nice maneuver with the knight cutting off, the rook cutting off these squares. The knight controls that square, and the pawn controls that square. So that keeps his king from getting any closer. And at the same time, it hits the pawn over here. Let's see, rook to a4, hitting my knight. Knight to e6. You can see this game could have gone on for quite a while, although it's still winning the whole way. Just white can cause some disruption here, and now king c2 will finally force me to give up that advanced pawn, and I'll have to win with these pawns over here. But now my king is in position to come forward and support these pawns. The reason why I was having so much trouble over here after this knight b1 move is that my king is way over on the other side of the board, and his king is closer. So I keep this pawn around as a threat, and try and keep his king away as much as possible, and also attack these pawns on the over on the king side. And at the end, when white finally wins the b pawn, I will have scooped up these pawns, and my king is in position to help these pawns promote. So that's the way to win that end game. Anyway, this king d3, knight b4 check is a much simpler win. So that's how the game ended. Hope you guys liked this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon.